What's up guys, this is Ray and today we'll be talking about the 1950 Japanese movie Rashomon, directed by the legendary Kurosawa Akira and starring Mifune Toshiro. But before we dive into this review, if you guys are new to Eiga-Man Ray, I upload reviews and discussions of Japanese movies every chance I get. So if you're new to the channel and you dig the content, you want to talk about Japanese movies, I definitely appreciate it if you subscribe. But going back to the review, Rashomon. For me, I think Rashomon is definitely one of the first Kurosawa Akira movies I've ever seen. The very first Kurosawa movie I've seen was Seven Samurai, and it is to this day my favorite Kurosawa movie, mainly because it's the first movie of his I saw. It was the one that introduced me to him. But Rashomon is also pretty damn good. And one thing I like about Rashomon compared to the rest of Kurosawa's filmography, or not to the rest, but to many movies in his filmography, is that it's kind of a, it's not as long, first of all. It's kind of a smaller story, but nonetheless, it's still one of the most intriguing and very well executed and just overall put together films. So the story of Rashomon. Well, first let's discuss the title of Rashomon. It's named after the place where the opening scene happens. Rashomon is the name of the gate to the city of Kyoto. And in the opening scene, you meet a woodcutter, you meet a priest, and you meet just a common dude. And it's the middle of a rainstorm, and the common dude walks up to Rashomon. He meets the priest and the woodcutter. They're kind of, the two are kind of taken aback. They're in shock of the scene that had folded in front of them moments before they all meet. And it's this scene that kind of introduces or segues into the concept of this movie. And that is, it's about a murder of a samurai. And the story of Rashomon is told through 4 eyewitness accounts. And all of these accounts detail from their point of view what happened in this murder. And as one would expect, each one of these stories don't match with each other. There are a lot of drastic differences between each of the eyewitness accounts. So the 4 testimonies are given to us by a bandit who's played by Mifune Toshiro, and also the wife of the samurai, and also the samurai through a spirit medium, and lastly the woodcutter. So both the characters and also us, the audience, are trying to figure out which is the real story, which details are true, and what ultimately happened. So when it comes to the positives of Rashomon, pretty much everything. This movie is excellent. It's definitely one of the most unique Japanese movies, just movies in general, to ever come out. And this movie came out in 1950, and I think a lot of movies since then have tried to replicate the kind of storytelling methods that was present in Rashomon. And one of the key elements that behind the storytelling elements is the concept of memory, because we have 4 storytellers, and each one has a drastic viewpoint, a drastically different version of what happened. And that is the most intriguing part. You first meet the bandit, and through his point of view, he had a fight with the samurai. It was one of the most epic battles ever seen. He even gave the number of times their swords clashed. He painted it out to be this real epic battle. And there are other differences in between each version of the story, all of which I won't really go into too much detail. But there are a few things that line up in each version of the story, and that is the wife of the samurai gets attacked by the bandit and gets raped, and then after that there's this conflict that leads to the death of the samurai. But because of the way each character told their version of the story, that just made it all the more intriguing. You really didn't know who is telling the truth, and you really don't know who's remember everything correctly. And even till the very end, you don't exactly know, because you think that the main voice of it all, the woodcutter, he's the one who we first meet in the story. And I think by default, we're trained to think that he is the one who's going to tell the ultimate truth. But then you kind of find out that, even his version of the story is missing a few key details. Another thing that's excellent about Rashomon, as with any other Kurosawa movie, is the cinematography, the way the camera moves. I think, if you're familiar with the level of quality in Kurosawa's works, you definitely won't be disappointed in Rashomon. And the camera especially is great when capturing the action sequences. There aren't that many action sequences. There's the one where I described just previously between the bandit and the samurai. There might be a couple others, but each time there is action on screen, the camera captures everything excellently. This is before, all the kind of high-octane stunt work that we have The choreography and the fights in Rashomon felt raw. And I think a lot of movies that were made around the time Rashomon was produced all have the same kind of raw style. That's why something I love about Jidaigeki, about these old samurai movies, is that it feels much more raw. It feels more real compared to a movie that might fully depend on high-octane action or stunt work, wires and whatnot. That's what I love about the movies of this age. And when it comes to the performances, everyone did an excellent job. But my favorite performer has got to be Mifune. He's one of Japan's greatest performers throughout all of history. Like, what I love about Mifune is that he has a wide range when you see not only the movies he's done with Kurosawa, but just like his filmography altogether. He can play the loudmouth and be kind of comedic, but at the same time, he can also do characters that have a dark past, that are tragic. Mifune just can do it all. But I think one of the most interesting things I dug about Rashomon, and I don't know if this dives into spoiler territory at all, but I'll just give a little warning, it might be a spoiler, is that they don't really give you a straight answer, and it's really up to the viewer to decide what was true and what isn't true. And as a matter of fact, I feel like the viewer is a very important part of the experience of watching this movie. There are a lot of scenes, really excellently performed scenes, in which it seemed like these characters, when they're giving their testimony, are talking to a judge or a jury type of situation, but you don't hear the judge or jury talking or conversing with the characters as they're talking. Instead, the way the characters perform, the way the performers perform, it's almost like they're giving a monologue in front of a stage play audience. But I think it's supposed to replicate them talking to the viewer, and in a way, the viewer becomes the de facto jury in this story. When it comes to the negatives of Rashomon, nothing. I mean, I don't find really negative things to say about any of Kurosawa's movies. I love them. If anything, I think the length of an average Kurosawa movie might be a bit long, but for Rashomon, it was very short. It was definitely nothing like a 2 or 3 hour movie as one would expect from an epic of Kurosawa's. It was a smaller story, and I think the time length was perfect for the kind of story it was trying to tell. Anyways, yes, those are my thoughts on Rashomon. What did you guys think? Please let me know in the comment section below. Don't forget to leave a like, share, and subscribe, and follow me in all the social media channels. And of course, you can always support this channel by checking out other reviews which have put up. But yes, that's about it for me, guys. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and hope to catch y'all again in the next video. Take it easy.